Good morning and welcome to our Sycamore Township workshop meeting for Tuesday, June 16th, 2020. Let the record show that all three trustees are present. I'm going to make a motion now to approve the June 2nd workshop meeting minutes. Do we have a second?
Motion to approve? Okay, second.
Mr. Porter?
Mr. LaBarber?
Aye.
Mr. James?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
Okay, up next, Physical Officer Rob Porter. Time to pay the bills and receipts.
Yes, we had receipts of $76,543.16, disbursements of $235,278.87. A complete list of all receipts and disbursements is available in the office for your review.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Porter?
Mr. LaBarber?
Aye.
Mr. James?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
All right, Sheriff Patrol items. Good to see you, Lieutenant Torrey Smith. You guys have had a busy time, I know.
We're in a tough spot right now, but like all of the storms, we're weathering the storm quite well. I don't have a lot to report this morning. We did have a demonstration this past Sunday in the Kenwood area. Mr. Work, I received your text. Did you happen to physically be in the area, or did you receive those numbers in terms of attendance from someone else?
I was there.
Okay. Basically, what we're seeing locally is we received information last week from the Fairfield Police Department that there was a young lady who was organizing an event. One of her areas that she wanted to demonstrate was the Kenwood area. Sergeant Mike Carney reached out to her last Thursday. I had a follow-up phone conversation with her on Friday. She was very, very polite, very articulate. And basically during that conversation, our goal was to kind of establish a dialogue with her and her associates. She explained what she wanted to do. We kind of went over some do's and don'ts and things that we would like to see. But we're seeing more and more that if we have a group that wants to protest or demonstrate or do something publicly, our best course of action is to reach out to them and just have a conversation. They get a feel for what, how and where we stand, and we kind of get a feel for what they're doing or what they would like to do. And it's like any other situation. If you talk about it open and kind of openly and freely, it serves both parties extremely well. But I believe the demonstration that occurred Sunday was very peaceful. Everyone was very cooperative. I don't think they got the numbers that they were hoping for, Mr. Ward. Originally, we were told that it could possibly be up to 200 people that would be present in the township, but no problems whatsoever. We're maintaining close contact with Bonnie Miles and Wanda at the town center. Early on in this, over the past several weeks, early on during this time, we received some intelligence that certain groups might be targeting the Kenwood area, the retail districts, strictly for the purpose of doing damage, looting, and things of that nature. Those things did not materialize, thankfully. And as of this morning, things changed, but we've not received any credible new intel that's coming in suggesting that people might come to this area and try to do damage. But we're under the microscope, to put it bluntly. But the staff is holding up. I feel that we're doing a good job addressing complaints and issues in our township and in the neighborhoods. So again, not to put a rosy or paint a rosy picture, but I do think we're doing things the right way. And for that matter, I think most of the community here locally is doing things the right way also. One other item, I can't go into too many details because the investigation is continuing and there are some co-defendants. We made a big arrest up in High Point last week. We have 3 or 4 bad actors up in High Point, and I don't have hard data in front of me, but usually when we have something up there going on, one of these 3 or 4 people are typically involved, or associates of these people are involved. But we made a good arrest last week. This gentleman is being looked at by not only us, but Sharonville, Blue Ash. He's operated as far north as Moraine, Ohio, and as far south as Villa Hills. Mainly involved in property crimes, stolen goods. We executed a search warrant in a residence last Friday. That revealed a lot of stuff, a lot of stolen property and stuff like that. But when the time comes, we'll let you know who that individual is. And like I said, if there are other co-defendants, we don't want to jeopardize the ongoing investigation. But this guy will hopefully, knock wood, be off the street for a very, very long time. Again, he's a bad actor, but that was something very positive that's come out in the past week or two. Other than that, I'm going to work with Mr. Work on the purchase of hopefully the purchase of a couple of cruisers. The Sycamore fleet is aging, so we need to get those turned around. And we're gearing up for summer. So that's all I have this morning.
Any questions?
I've got one. I'm just curious. On the police blotter reports we get the other day that there was an incident involving some FBI agents and the sheriff's office and some idiot who ran into them, I think, and pulled a gun or something.
There were two crash incidents. Basically, I believe it was eastbound coming through the Tri-County Sharonville area. A person under the influence of it was a case of drugged driving, not alcohol related, not drunk driving, but a case of drug driving. This individual was traveling eastbound on the interstate, sideswiped the vehicle, and of all people, he hit a unmarked FBI agent's car. The FBI agent, it just so happened that it was that officer or that agent's first or second day assigned to the Cincinnati field office, so they didn't quite have the lay of the land yet, so they were trying to keep an eye on him and relay their location. He passed, after striking that vehicle, he passed, of course, the vehicle, got off at the Montgomery Road exit, and we're all familiar with that kind of looping ramp, lost control and crashed again. But that put it in, there was some question as to whether or not it was in the city of Montgomery or Sycamore. It put it in Sycamore, and we wound up arresting that individual for drug driving. But he was kind of out of it and kind of, not aggressive, but kind of non-compliant at first, so when the FBI agents closed in on the crashed vehicle, he wasn't complying, so guns were drawn and things of that nature. So, but once he was taken into custody by us, there was no further incident. So, middle of the day. So.
Wow. Thanks for the
Thank you,
details.
thank you. Chief Rob Penny, back from vacation with a good tan, and he's got the EMS and fire report. What do you
Good
got,
morning,
Chief?
gentlemen.
Morning.
My report is, we applied for additional revenue loss from the CARES Act, and it looks like we'll probably get about $18,000 back from that. We just applied last week, I think, so we'll see how that goes. We do have 2 additional COVID cases in the township. 0 cases have been expired as of this morning. And I just emailed you about 15 minutes ago the monthly report for May. Has some interesting stats on it, but I guess with things opening back up, our run volume starting to pick back up. We've from April to May, we've got a 40 run increase on our daily, we're back up to 14 to 17 runs a day. So things are starting to pick back up for us anyway. We picked up an additional 12 runs this last month on roadway, which would be people are back out on the road now. So that's things are starting to get back to normal. And just as a reminder, the state of Ohio still is getting increases in COVID cases, so it's still out there. I mean, it's not as televised and as hipped up as it was a few months ago, but just in the state of Ohio, there's 430 additional cases so far and 16 deaths. So, it's still the social distancing that we're practicing and the precautions are very well worth it, and we do need to not let our guard down. I know with businesses and restaurants and things opening back up, protest obviously is probably going to create problems, but if we don't be careful, we're going to be back to a quarantine. We don't want that, so it's still there, still out there. So that's all I have.
Chief, I want to thank you. I contacted you about a local resident in the hospital, over at Jewish Hospital, and without going into details, she was in a stressful condition, and you guys took care of the thing for her, and I appreciate you. And we say it often, you guys are the best. There's no question about that.
We don't mind helping people like that. A lot of times we don't know about it. We don't know when people are coming home from the hospital, and but if they do call us, we'll be happy to help them. If we're available, we'll try to get somebody out there.
Any comments for the chief? Tom?
No.
All right, we're going to go to the roads maintenance Recreation items, our road supervisor, Mr. Tracy Kellums.
A couple updates for the parks. The shelters are open, playgrounds are open, bathrooms are open. Those are getting thorough cleanings. They're getting cleaned every single day, and like a sanitation once a week. There are signs that have been put up at all shelters and playgrounds warning people, social distancing, and we got those from the health department. Anything that we have to warn them about as if everybody doesn't know already. But they're being used. Our parks are being used. Baseball diamonds are very active. They're filling up quick. People are, I think they're, really looking for something to do after being cooped up for so long. So parks are very busy. Trash Bash has officially been rescheduled. The northern one, September 18th and 19th. The one at Bechtold, September 25th and 26th. All parties that are involved in that have put that on their schedule and are able to make it that day. Document shredding coming up, that's June 20th, right here behind the Township building from 10 to 2. And then we also have chipping again this month because of the 4th of July. We've moved that to the 27th. That's also behind the building here, and that's from 8 to 4. So other than that, right-of-way tree planting, if you remember, Mr. Adam Lehman came, who's been working with the Cooper Creek Collaborative, and I know we had a Zoom call with him and Ms. Kugler, and we've been talking about right-of-way trees. Originally this program was going to be, I know there is another program, but it was going to be on private residence. Now they're looking to put trees in the right-of-way. They send us a map of potential locations for 548 trees in the right-of-way in the Cooper Creek watershed. So I went out and looked at all of them. Obviously, being in charge of maintenance, I am not in favor of trees in the right-of-way where we have sidewalks, curbs, things are going to be damaged. It's not going to happen right away, but eventually will happen. So I had another meeting with Adam, and I've gone around and approved locations of 122 of those trees where there are no sidewalks. Of course, they're going to be in front of residents, so we've also told them that we would like resident approval. We don't want to put trees in somebody's front yard, and even though they're in the right-of-way, if they don't want them, because they're going to be the ones that are maintaining them, raking the leaves, they're the ones whose sewers are going to be infiltrated by roots if that happens. So Adam had asked that if the board was so inclined to get him a letter saying the township agrees just to work with them. This isn't going to be any cost to the township. I mean, in the long run, it probably will. We spend a lot of money every year in removing trees in the right-of-way. I get calls constantly. Also with sidewalk, but that's why there's no sidewalks in these areas. So I had 122 approved with 22 more proposed, so a possible 144 locations that they could move forward with now that would not be in conflict with sidewalks.
How do you anticipate getting approval? Each individual homeowner would be contacted to ask if it's okay?
Yes, and we told them that was up to them.
But are we
would
require
not be making
documentation on that?
We would require documentation, yes. And then they said, well, we'll send a letter, and if we don't get something back, we'll just go ahead and do it. I said, no, you have to have approval.
Well, I think maybe it would be good for us to have some kind of a signed sheet that just says, yeah, I approve, have them sign off on it, so that we don't say, well, he said that it was okay, and I put it in there, and then we're getting a call and a complaint. So it might be a good idea to get.
Because
some kind of
obviously not
simple
everybody's
form.
going to want them.
I think it's important to get affirmative consent from the homeowner. That's something, Ms. Kugler is here, I know, in support of this plan today, and just to keep an eye on us, but that's something we discussed early on, that if it were to happen, the homeowners need to say yes, because frankly, not everyone's going to want a tree in their front yard they have to maintain. In terms of getting signatures, Mr. Desai, is there anything special we need from that? Otherwise, we're not the ones installing it. It's going to be the Cooper Creek Cooperative, I guess, doing that. But if it's going in township right away, that's land we own, do we need the homeowner to sign off on anything beyond just something confirming they affirmatively consent to this, like a release or
I mean,
anything?
I think a simple approval is fine, if it meets Tracy's, satisfaction, I think we'd be fine with that. We're not taking on any liability with it.
That would be a question for you, yes.
Well, we're not engaged in the installation process. or
No, we
anything
are
of that
not.
Nature, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Any liability would be long-term, in 30, 40 years if a limb falls on something, but,
Yeah, I mean, as long as we're not involved in the installation process or anything like that, I think a simple affirmative approval or consent, as you mentioned, would be fine.
So every one of the locations you plotted out so far is not adjacent to a sidewalk?
Correct.
Okay.
So is the board fine with that? Do you want us to send a letter?
They're going to draft a letter, Tracy, and give it to us, along with the mailings they're going to do, and that we'll bring it back to the board at a future meeting. They weren't ready for today.
Okay. Other than that, if you don't have any more questions about the right-of-way trees, I want to discuss the opening of the community room and the lobby here to the public. It's a little different than, shelters that are in open air. Obviously, there's going to be different restrictions. We have capacity issues. Things are starting to open up, so I was just wondering, how you feel about opening Schuler and the lobby to the public. So far, the lobby is still closed. The way we've been doing, documents go down to the fire department. We could get the documents every day. It's been working fine. We've had no problems with that. The only time the lobby's been open is meeting days.
I think I would yield to the chief's opinion on that, and also Ray, as it relates to this building here, because Ray's here every day, as to what your thoughts are on opening or not opening.
I think this lobby here, as far as people bringing things in, if you X off the floor to keep people keep their distance, they're just going to come in, and you're avoiding a crowd basically. If more than one person comes in, they would be spaced out. I think that's fine. Just my opinion. As far as the room up north, if that's a gathering thing, I would have a different thought on that.
What do you do as it relates to access to the restrooms?
One person at a time and clean it every day. It's like basically what the restaurants and all the other people are doing.
So you would post on the door, one person at a time?
You can, yeah.
Okay, and then somebody's going to mark off the 6 feet X's of them, okay.
That just modeling off of what other people are doing, that seems to be the norm for when they go inside a building, that it's X'd off for your distance, and then limiting how many are coming in and that sort of thing. I mean, you're letting them in now, with the meetings and that sort of thing. So to walk in this room or walk to that glass window is really not much of a difference as far as COVID is concerned. So as long as we just maintain distance.
I guess the only difference is we're taking their temperature on the way in.
Yeah.
Of which we couldn't
And
do.
then what about the zoning window? I mean, Jess is going to have direct contact with people when they come in with zoning documents, because that's not just a window. She has to open that up and deal directly with that.
Yeah, it looks like most people put some kind of plexiglass or something up for a blockage and leave something under the window. Now, on something like that, you could have it where they could still talk to her through the window somewhat and leave the document out here and go get, rather than a pass-through type of thing. You could try something like that.
And then the other thing is Schuler. I don't know.
Yeah, what's Schuler for? More or less meetings, get-togethers?
Yeah, get-togethers, people want to rent it.
Yeah, it's up to you. I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, you can't control how many people are going in there, and you know what I mean? I mean, that's something that's not, unless it's a meeting that we're having, that you can do what we're doing here, space it out. But if you're just gonna rent it out to somebody and just say, have at it, then, you know, you're not controlling anything at that point.
Certain things are allowed under the health rules, such as wedding receptions. Have we had anybody contact us for a rental like that? Is that something we need to think about?
Not at Schuler, we had one person contact us for the pavilion, but then they changed their minds, and I don't know if they changed their mind on the wedding or just the reception.
Don't ask too many questions.
Now,
Yeah.
at the very least, if you do decide to open it up, I would definitely post signage in the building to
Yeah.
maintain social distancing, wash your hands, da-da-da, and then it would definitely have to be sanitized after every use, if you want to do it. I mean, there's people out there using facilities, so I'm not saying absolutely no, but if you're going to open it up, I would at least put the signage up there to cover our butts.
Deepak, if we have somebody that contracts the COVID virus at an event at Schuler after they rented the facility, do we have any liability?
Well, if the law passes the state legislature, we won't.
But it hasn't passed yet.
Not to my knowledge. Yeah, so I mean, there's always concern, you know, it's no different than, you know, if somebody tripped and fell at Schuler, you know, a year ago, they could potentially sue the township, so there's always liability there. I'll check on the status of that bill, but to my knowledge, it still hasn't passed yet.
Well, previously we left, if I recall right, we left discretion for opening the buildings or closing them to Mr. Warwick as the administrator. I don't remember that we actually voted to close them, did we? Didn't we pass a motion delegating that authority to you for a period of time that was time limited, and it's escaping me as to the outer limit on that, but I don't know that it was the duration of the emergency.
We were just simply, when that was done, we were just simply following what the state was suggesting / requiring. It's just getting confusing now as people are opening up. I think we haven't had one complaint being shut down in the lobby here for the daily work, but I think we're going to start to take a little bit of pressure because other communities have opened up their lobbies. And the thing at Schuler, I mean, tell me what the rule is. I don't know. I mean, is the 10-person rule still in effect for meetings there? I mean, it's just confusing. They're doing a survey. Local government is doing a survey on opening things like the community room. The results aren't in yet.
Want to hold up on that for another month?
That's fine with me. I guess we ought to see what other communities are doing about their community rooms.
Okay, then discuss it the next meeting. Want to do that?
Sure, if that's what you want to do.
Because it's really interesting because if you have potato chips, a bowl of potato chips on the table, you can't have that. You know, if you go into restaurants,
Which is true.
yeah, I was surprised that
Right.
And no self-service of any kind
Yeah.
for food, basically.
which is really,
Is there, I ask about weddings, is there anything else pressing where someone has asked to rent it during the next 2 weeks at least before our meeting or something like that? Okay, then, yeah,
I
we should
think we
probably.
really need to listen to Chief also. If he's not comfortable with it, I think that's really the way we need to go.
I think a lot of people are still reluctant on doing that. I mean, every day we got people that bring plans and drop stuff off at that box at the station. They still got masks on and everything. They're still leery, you know. So I
You
don't.
can tell how much reluctance there is out there just by driving on the roads.
Mhm.
There's nobody on the roads anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, restaurants are still empty.
Yeah.
anything else, Trace?
No, sir, that's all I have unless you have any questions.
I do. I just want to, you and I were talking in the hallway, and I mentioned I was in Delhi over the weekend, and they've got 50 acres of park out there, and it's an incredible park. And one thing that really caught my eye was that I talked to Dan Ryan from the maintenance department over there, the parks department over there, yesterday. They have a pickleball court. Now, pickleball is like, it's a court, it's a tennis court, and they changed it, so it's pickleball. Pickleball, when we were talking, Jason Petty came in and joined the conversation. He said, when Anderson, they're packed all the time. Madeira has them, and Madeira is extreme. They've got 4 courts down there, and they're packed all the time. I just mentioned that because you and I were talking about the houses we bought now, we're tearing them down on Plainfield Road, and will there be extra room in Bechtold Park. I know it's not gonna happen tomorrow or the next day, but you had mentioned it possibly that we could put a pickleball court, two courts in there.
It's all gonna be green space, so, I mean, we can literally do whatever we want. I mean, they'd have to park in our existing parking lot. We weren't planning on putting another parking lot in, but, you know, it'd be up there close to where the restrooms are behind Shelter 2. You know, that's, you know, an open area that we would have that they could possibly go in there. I mean, the rest of the park is mainly, you know, playgrounds, baseball fields. It'd be hard to put a volleyball court, it'd be hard to put it out there anywhere.
When would that?
I'm not really familiar with it, I'm assuming it's the size of a tennis
Same-
court.
same court.
It's small, it's
Well,
smaller.
you use the tennis court so that
Yeah.
you could, if you suddenly, you know, this, we don't need to make, this is down the road, right?
Yeah.
Down the road.
It's
I just
down
threw
the
that
road.
out.
I mean, It's something we could look at.
Yeah, this pickleball, to think about pickleball. Okay, thank you, Tracy.
And we have a Parks Committee.
Jessica would like it, she plays pickleball.
She does, you do play pickleball, is that right? You do? She and her husband play pickleball.
Yeah.
All right, with the planning and zoning report.
We have Parks Committee forming, that's something they can certainly discuss.
Okay, yeah.
This is for the park for that, but I think Ms. Kugler had a question, if you're willing to
I
entertain
don't
it.
know when the public has a chance to speak. I didn't see it on here, but I did want to make a clarification if possible. At whatever point I'm allowed to speak.
Well, we don't have public comments in this meeting, but what, I couldn't understand what you said. What did you say?
I wanted to clarify, if you will be providing a letter to the Cooper Creek Collaborative, that you will work with them on the tree planting, or you're still thinking about it. I wasn't sure from the conversation,
They are going to supply us with a letter,
that they want you to sign,
and then we'll bring it back to the trustees,
and when will, that be Thursday maybe?
whenever they have it ready.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you so much.
So ask Adam Lehman, I think it's in his hands right now.
I will. Thank you.
Anything else, Kath? Is that it? Kathy, okay.
I did have some questions.
Go ahead,
Question,
yeah.
Joe. In terms of various projects going on around the township, Sycamore Road, of course, is closed off right over here right now. Is everything on schedule with that?
It is. They are determined to finish that project this year. I am a little skeptical that that can possibly happen. I mean, we still have a lot of work to do. The only problem would be we still have to put surface on all of it, so you have to stay within temperature specs. The road will be open, just like at the roundabout. It'll have at least intermediate surface on it, that it will be open, but I'm not sure that we'll get the surface course on this year, because once we're out of temperature specs, we can't pave.
What about the, excuse me, the Cape Seal work in the neighborhoods? Is that on schedule, Mr. Nettle?
Yeah, that's supposed to be done towards the end of July.
Okay.
And we'll be getting letters out to everybody affected by that.
Okay. And behind us here with the big maintenance building, everything on schedule with that, as far as you know?
They're a little behind schedule, but they're still close. I mean, it's still supposed to be this year.
I had emailed you because a resident who lives nearby had complained about the construction noise starting at 7 a.m. in the mornings. That is within our existing noise ordinance, though. Is there anything out of the ordinary going on early, though, that they could divert?
No.
Okay.
One day they were early when they were bringing in the pumper truck to pump the concrete. The truck came in early so they could start working at 7. That's the only time that it's been early.
Okay. Thanks.
Before you move on to the zoning report, what do you want, what's your decision on the lobby out here? Are you gonna open it with restrictions, or just leave it like it is?
I thought we were gonna wait for that survey from local government before we.
Yeah, I think we can hold off until the next meeting,
Okay.
Chief, because it's running smoothly, and let's just see what the other communities are saying.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah, oh yeah, we're talking about 2 different locations here, I just
Yeah,
wanna make
yeah.
sure we have both of them.
Okay, anything else? Let's go to the planning, zoning, and Skylar Miller.
Yes, sir. Excuse me. So the only thing I have prepared for you for the work session is a resolution declaring a property a nuisance for vegetation, garbage, refuse and other debris. Let me pull this up for you. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't realize these were turned sideways. See if I can fix that. This property is 7301 Dunlith Court. Now, keep in mind, these photos, I believe, are a week and a half, 2 weeks old at this point, so grass has still been growing. You know, the condition of the site is only getting worse until it's properly abated.
Is this house abandoned or somebody living in it?
I do not believe anyone's there right now. We've been on site, we haven't seen anyone. I think the driveway may be being used by a neighbor.
Okay.
So, again, do ask that the resolution is read and approved tonight so that we can move forward with proper abatement.
You said the photos are about a week old. Has somebody been by more recently to take a look?
Yes, Kevin monitors the active sites, and if there's any changes, we would have taken this off.
Okay.
So, now let's see if I can get this back.
And you've gone through the normal procedure, you've warned them, you've given them all the notices.
Absolutely. You know, we always start with trying to get voluntary compliance on any type of violation. You know, the main goal is to establish a dialogue with the property owner, try and resolve it at the lowest level possible. So, you know, if any time there's a resolution that's brought forth to the board, excuse me, I can't talk with that thing in. If a resolution is brought to the board, it's because we've exhausted other opportunities, or the process is just taking too long, and we've got to start moving, you know, something down the court. Okay.
So has there been no response whatsoever from them?
No response with this one. Okay. Should I read, or Deepak, do you want to? I will. That's fine. All right. A resolution providing for and authorizing removal of vegetation, garbage, refuse, and other debris, and declaring nuisance for the property located at 7301 Dunlith Court, Sycamore Township, Ohio, 45243.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. LaBarber?
Discussion, any discussion? Okay, Mr. Porter?
Mr. LaBarber?
Aye.
Mr. James?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye. Skylar, can you just update us on the house over here on
Quail Hollow.
Yep, absolutely. So we are actually monitoring that site on Quail Hollow on a daily basis. You know, some weekend days excluded. They are currently on site. Contractors are. There's heavy equipment still, kind of cleaning out the corners of the excavation area. There are plumbing contractors on site today, so they are running lines to the site. All of that is, again, it's still in prep of the forms, actually being set up, and you know, again, in preparation for the pour. You know, we have made contact with the job site foreman, who is supposed to be providing me with a more formal schedule of the project. That has not happened yet.
Wasn't he going
but-
to do that yesterday afternoon?
Well, they were supposed to have a meeting to develop it yesterday afternoon. He didn't tell me he was definitely going to send it to me yesterday. So I would expect it within the next day or two. You know, the you know, schedule for new home construction. This isn't a new novel issue. There's a tried and true format for this. You know, I don't expect that schedule to be too elaborate. You know, but this is a very large home. It's you know, 3 finished stories, including the basement. So you're looking at over 6,000 square feet, you know, of work to be done on this site. So, like I said, we will continue to monitor. If there is a lapse in activity, we do still have the violations in effect. So, you know, if need be, we can work with Mr. Desai and, you know, take action swiftly at this point.
There's no current health hazard apparent, is there, or any?
No, as it stands today, the excavation site is empty. It's not an unmonitored, you know, pond. It's not going to be a you know, ground zero for mosquito outbreaks. The northern wall, because it's because it's empty, it's relatively dry. I don't see it continuing to erode. There is some additional excavation they need to do on that side to you know, before they raise the forms. Again, it's part of the plan with the job foreman. He's not going to touch that wall until they're actually ready to set those up, because he doesn't want to you know, adversely affect the integrity of that side. So everything seems to be stable at this point.
And have we heard any further concerns from the neighbors about it since our last meeting?
Well, there's constant concerns and communications with residents. I know they're reaching out to you. We've received some calls, you know, and rightly so. They're fed up with how long this process has taken. You know, I understand that, which is why we're monitoring a site every day. We typically do not do that with, you know, a standard permit and construction project. You know, obviously this was left neglected for an unreasonable amount of time, so it warrants that additional review. But you know, as it stands now, the immediate risk to the area is, you know, at least on a temporary basis, has been resolved.
Any other questions for Skylar? Anything else, Skylar?
That's all I have for today.
All right, let's move over to our law director, Mr. Deepak Desai.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report. Thank you. And our administrator, Mr. Ray Warwick.
We have a resolution that lays out us complying with, I guess it's House Bill 481 now. First time we wrote this up, it was Senate Bill 10. It's been volleyed back and forth. I still don't think it's fully complete, but I think we can pass this today. I think it's going to stay under the House Bill 481 title. They've merged the two bills, if you will, and I think they're still working some things out. Like I just noticed the other day that the thing about using 25% of the TIF money was back in. So I don't know where it's at, whether it's in a conference. I don't know if it's in the House or the Senate, but I think we can go ahead and pass this today. This just explains that we will use the funds properly if we, indeed Sycamore Township has to apply for them. So there's a resolution establishing the proper use of funds set forth in Ohio House Bill 481, dispensing with a second reading and declaring an emergency.
Motion. Second.
Discussion? Mr. Porter?
Mr. LaBarbera?
Aye.
Mr. James?
Aye.
Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
The other item I have is the July trustee meetings, and the staff has a suggestion. In July, the first July meeting actually will be June 30th, which is a Tuesday workshop, and we suggest we conduct that as we normally would. We'd like to suggest that we cancel the Thursday night, July 2nd meeting. We don't see a crush of agenda items, and that also runs up against the holiday, and we've got folks off work with vacations and things. And then the workshop that is slated for July 14th, what we would suggest is we move that to an evening meeting, because we need to have our hearing for the tax budget on that day. So it would be June 30th workshop as usual, cancel July 2nd evening meeting, and move the July 14th workshop to an evening meeting. And it would be in conjunction with the hearing on the tax budget.
Any discussion on this? Are we in agreement with that? Tom? Tom?
I'm good.
So, confused, sorry, this is not what I expected that I had heard. Yesterday, I thought we were moving the June 30th meeting to the evening, so we're keeping it in the morning, elevating the 14th.
Yeah.
So June
Planned a
30th,
bunch of travel for some.
yeah, June
work
30th would
things.
be in the evening, Tom, 7 o'clock in the evening. I mean, excuse me, it would be the workshop meeting in the morning,
Yeah.
9
okay,
o'clock, and
July
then on the
14th.
14th, instead of
Okay,
the
that
morning,
works.
we move it to night. We don't have to do anything, we all agree on that.
Well, we did pass a resolution at the start of the year setting our meeting schedule.
Yeah,
Do
we do
we need
have
to
to
move for this?
So I'll make a motion that we cancel our July 2nd meeting and move our July 14th workshop to an evening meeting, 7 PM.
So that it'll be a regular meeting on that night. It'll be
Yes.
a regular township
Yes.
meeting.
Second.
Okay.
So that'll be on the Thursday or the Tuesday?
It's a
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
It'll be on the Tuesday in
Yes.
July evening.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Porter, you call the roll.
Yeah, Mr. LaBarbera, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Mr. James? Aye. Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
I have no further items.
Fiscal Officer, Rob Porter,
I've got no communications. Comments?
no communications.
No.
Okay, now we're at the trustee items. Mr. Weedman, Mr. James.
I had something I was going to bring up, and I'm going to save it for the next meeting, so thanks.
Okay. So I have nothing, so we'll go to announcement changes. Date change due to the holiday on the first Saturday of July, monthly shipping at Saturday, June 27th, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. behind the Administration Building in Kenwood Road. And for other announcements and up-to-date information, just check our website. And we'd like to make a motion now to adjourn our regular meeting. Do we have a second?
Well, wait. Do we have the executive session?
That's where we're going to move out of our regular
We need
meeting.
a full motion as to that. Then.
We need a
I move-
motion to move out of this meeting and then
Yeah,
another motion to move into executive session.
No, we don't need the first, just a motion to go into executive session for the particular matter.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn into executive session with the Law Director Deepak Desai to discuss pending litigation as permitted by Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22 G3,
And to discuss
Second.
the sale of,
and to also adjourn into executive session to discuss the sale of property as permitted by Ohio Revised Code 121.22 G2.
I'll second that.
okay,
Mr. LaBarbera?
aye.
Mr. James? Aye. Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
Okay, and I'm going to invite into the executive session, and the time right now is 9:44. Mr. Warwick, the three trustees, Law Director Deepak Desai, Tracy Kellums, Skylar Miller, and Rob Porter. You all back? Yeah. We are now back from executive session. No action was taken. The time is 10:17.
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a roll call?
Yeah, let's do a roll call.
Roll call,
Mr.
Clerk.
LaBarbera,
Here.
Mr. James,
Here.
Mr. Weedman.
Present. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We didn't vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the time is 10:19.